Hello and welcome. You're watching News Central Television. I am Judith Atibi. Here are the stories making headlines just beyond the continent. Now, Beyond the Continent starts with global trade news as China has implemented a new 125% tariff on U.S. imports set to take effect on Saturday in response to the ongoing trade dispute with the United States. According to Beijing, the U.S. tariffs are an unjustified violation of international trade rules and basic economic principles, characterizing them as acts of unilateral bullying and coercion. The U.S. has placed a 145% tariff on some Chinese goods as part of the ongoing trade conflict. President Xi Jinping has urged the European Union to join China in opposing these U.S. actions, warning that no country benefits from a tariff war. However, the Chinese government has stated that it will not retaliate further against any additional tariffs imposed by the U.S. And now joining us for more on this is God bless Otubore. He is a U.S. national security, defense, intelligence, and statecraft emerging expert. And he joins us to speak more on this development. God bless. Let's just get started, shall we? What are the long-term implications of China raising import tariffs to 125% on the U.S. goods for global trade relations?
Well, I mean, the long-term implication is just that it would definitely hurt our U.S.-China trade relations, as well as the fact that there are some goods that are coming in from China that will become maybe almost impossible to come to the U.S. because then the manufacturers then need to factor in all of this tariff. So it would be wise on the part of the Chinese, because they have a lot more to lose on this. They don't have the cards technically to reconsider their stand and come to the negotiating table.
And how significant is President Xi Jinping's call for the EU to unite with China against U.S. trade policies? And could this shift, global alliances against U.S. or for the U.S.?
Oh, no, absolutely. It's not going to happen. I mean, in a couple of days, I'm sure you would find there are delegations from the EU coming in to sign deals in the U.S. to reinforce the commitment to the global order that is led by the United States. I mean, because again, you look at it and say, if Xi is asking the EU to join China, it's absolutely, because if you look at the tariffs that were initially put on, the EU has been drastically reduced to just a reciprocal 10%, and the goal is to see that goes down to zero, and that is actually what countries that are interested in solving the problem, that's what to do. Like we've said, and many other commentators have said, the whole strategy was to get countries to come to the table to negotiate and say, look, if U.S. led the post-Second World War order and created this whole playing field for free trade, it is unwise for that to become the same thing that leads the U.S. to oblivion. So countries are coming in and they're having these conversations, and we'll see a fairer playing field. So I don't see the EU joining China. I don't see countries complaining, because I just tell you before I round off, just to say that there are countries that are actually doing more against China, even in Southeast Asia as we speak. I know that President Xi Jinping is on his way to Vietnam, Malaysia, and Thailand just to, reassure those people that he wants them. But those countries are also very skeptical about Chinese practices when it comes to international trade.
Right. Now, given the U.S. has imposed up to 145% levies on some Chinese goods, how likely is a resolution or trade deal in the near future?
Well, I mean, I was just listening to the president of China, where he said that, nobody wins in a tariff war. But I understand what is going on here. The Chinese people are very, they date back centuries. They're proud people. They believe in their culture. They believe that they've grown their economy to the point where they can have leverage. But I mean, I can tell you that from what I'm hearing, I think what will happen is for the president of China and the Chinese, people to reach out to the United States, because when you look at the trade imbalance, it is huge. last year alone, $440 billion were the things that the U.S. imported from China. But how much does China import from the U.S.? So when you look at it, the trade deficit, it favors China than it favors the United States. So I just think they need to get off their high horses right now and get on the negotiation team. They need to call Secretaries, Besson and Lutnick and see how they can have that high-level meeting that Donald Trump wants, just so that we can continue to trade, freely, between both countries.
Well, and lastly, what role does the weakening U.S. dollar play in the broader context of this trade war, and who stands to benefit or lose the most at the end of the day?
Well, I mean, the dollar definitely rises and falls in terms of its value over time, because it's the reserve currency of the world. You should also have things like that happening. So for me, I'd say that nobody wins without coming to the table, and we don't want to see a trade war. But of course, what should be mentioned is that when you have unfair trade practices from the Chinese, which is cataloged by countries both in the Western Hemisphere and even in Southeast Asia and even in Africa, it's important that these practices are called out and that there is some level of accountability. Because look, it's a simple thing. If you are charging me a tariff and I'm not charging you the same reciprocal tariff, I don't think it makes sense. So I just think that the dollar, currently losing some level of its value to the euros, probably it's just because of the sell-offs that have happened in the stock market in a couple of days. But trust me, the dollar is going to come back. It's still the strongest and most stable currency in the world, and people who want to do business globally also understand the viability of the dollar. So I see that coming back, and hopefully we get the Chinese to come to the table and resolve this as quickly as possible. But I can tell you this. The days of unfair practices and ripping the American taxpayer off and just these very unfair trade practices is over. And Donald Trump is saying that because U.S. national security is at stake. When you look at the rare earth minerals, when you look at the supply chain, when you look at some of the things that the Chinese are doing, subsidizing their EV markets to the detriment of Europe and America, I don't think that is right. And if Africa was producing, I think we will be having this same conversation as well. So I think it's just time to rein in and say, no, enough is enough. This is time to get back to the table and negotiate something better.
All right. Well, I must say thank you, God bless, for taking out time to join us. God bless Otubore there. He's a U.S. national security, defense, intelligence, and statecraft emerging expert, giving us a bit of insight following the U.S.-China trade war. Switch gears now to Spain, where the Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez is urging greater dialogue between Washington and Beijing following a week of escalating tariffs between the two global powers. Speaking from Beijing after a high-level meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping, Sánchez emphasized the importance of communication and cooperation between the U.S. and China, warning that prolonged trade disputes serve no one. With economic tensions mounting, Sánchez underscored that trade wars are counterproductive and ultimately harmful to the global economy. The remarks come as international leaders express growing concern over the impact of the standoff on global markets and supply chains.
No va contra nadie, va a favor del entendimiento entre países, de la defensa del orden multilateral y del libre comercio. En todo caso, le diré, y además lo creo, lo he dicho firmemente, España es un actor activo en la construcción de ese vínculo transatlántico con un socio histórico como es Estados Unidos. Queremos contribuir a esa relación positiva entre la Unión Europea y Estados Unidos, que creo que ha sido mutuamente beneficiosa, y al mismo tiempo creemos necesario el seguir avanzando en el establecimiento de unas relaciones sólidas entre China y la Unión Europea y también entre China y España. Que las guerras comerciales no son buenas, no gana nadie y que probablemente no, estoy seguro, el mundo necesita que tanto China como Estados Unidos hablen.
Let's also tell you that a fresh round of negotiations is set to begin as the European Union and the United States look to ease rising trade tensions. The EU's Trade Commissioner, Marko Sefcovic, will travel to Washington on Monday for high-level talks aimed at resolving the ongoing tariff standoff between the two economic powers. EU trade spokesperson Olaf Gill, he confirmed the visit on Friday, saying that the commissioner is headed to the U.S. Capitol in good faith, signaling a willingness to find common ground and end the dispute through dialogue. The meeting comes amid growing concerns over the global impact of transatlantic trade friction, with both sides under pressure to de-escalate and protect key industries. Both Washington and Brussels are expected to approach the talks with a focus on finding balanced long-term solutions.
I can confirm that Commissioner Šefčovič will hold meetings with his American counterparts in Washington, D.C. on Monday. I'm not going to go into the detail of what those talks may entail, beyond what we've said from here many times, which is that the European Union is willing to find win-win outcomes, mutually beneficial deals with our American counterparts to avoid tariffs and to avoid any harmful escalation that would be damaging on both sides of the Atlantic and indeed to the global economy. Commissioner Šefčovič travels to Washington, D.C. in good faith to try and find solutions that can benefit us all.
Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump has once again voiced criticism over Russia's lack of progress in ending the war in Ukraine. Trump called the war senseless and stated it should have never happened. The U.S. president, in his post on the Truth Social app, urged Russia to get moving in resolving the conflict. This statement comes as Trump's special envoy, Steve Witkoff, he arrived in Russia for crucial talks with President Vladimir Putin. According to the Kremlin, the discussions may also include the possibility of a future Trump-Putin meeting. Witkoff is expected to focus on efforts to find a peaceful deal for Ukraine, though it remains to be seen how the talks will unfold. The French Interior Minister has honored Chief Brigadier Olivier Marienda, a member of the elite CRS-29 Mountain Rescue Unit, who died during a daring operation in the French Brenez. Now, the Chief Brigadier lost his life on Monday, April 7th, after a fatal fall while attempting to rescue a stranded mountaineer in the remote commune of Aragonette. Both he and the climber tragically fell to their death during the operation. On Friday, the minister posthumously awarded the Chief Brigadier the highest French national honor, recognizing his bravery and selfless service. The minister noted that the nation now mourns the loss of a dedicated rescuer whose final mission was one of courage and sacrifice.
Honneur au capitaine Olivier Mariende, honneur à celui qui, après avoir tant servi, tant secouru, tant sauvé, aura tout donné pour les autres jusqu'à la mort, jusqu'à sa vie. Oui, le don de soi, plutôt que le chacun pour soi.
Ça reste forcément un choc. Perdre un collègue, un ami, c'est difficile, c'est brutal et c'est injuste. Olivier, c'était déjà un montagnard très aguerri, très qualifié. Il était à la fois guide de haute montagne, il était chef d'opération de secours en montagne, officier de police judiciaire. Donc en termes de qualification technique, il était au summum de ce qui existe dans la spécialité. C'était quelqu'un qui était très aguerri et en plus de ça, c'était un être humain charmant, voilà, quelqu'un qui n'avait que des amis. Donc très très difficile de perdre un camarade tel qu'Olivier.
Let's go on a short break, shall we? When we come back, India uses robotic muse to survey earthquake destruction in Myanmar. We have the details of this and more just after the break. Join us again. And welcome back. And off to Central America, where Panama's President Jose Raul Mulino has rejected a U.S. request for military bases during his visit to Peru. This follows talks about a new security agreement between the two nations. The The president confirmed that the United States had proposed terms involving permanent military presence and territorial cessions in a bilateral cooperation agreement. But these were removed from the final version. Panama and the U.S. on Wednesday signed a memorandum of understanding establishing a framework for cooperative security activities and formalizing U.S. personnel and contractor operations in designated facilities in the country.
Lo que se firmó antes de ayer es un memorándum de entendimiento operativo, administrativo, entre dos entidades de defensa, nuestro Ministerio de Seguridad y el Ministerio o la Secretaría de Defensa de los Estados Unidos. Hasta allí. Donde por lo menos en 3 o 4 versiones que fueron devueltas, retiramos los conceptos de presencia militar permanente, de bases militares, de cesión de territorio, porque eso sí es inaceptable. Y no lo entienden. Porque fue una de mis conversaciones con el secretario de Defensa. ¿Te quieren un lío aquí? Hablemos de esto, para que se prenda el país. Y si yo tengo la enorme responsabilidad de gobernar un país y de entender la importancia geopolítica, que no la tiene ningún otro país, con el mayor respeto lo digo, de nuestra región latinoamericana, por el canal de Panamá.
And off to Southern America, where former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro was hospitalized on Friday morning with abdominal pain while traveling in northeastern Brazil. The press office of his Liberal Party said that the pain was related to long-term effects of a stabbing to the abdomen he suffered in September of 2018. The former president has been in and out of hospitals since the incident at a campaign event before Brazil's 2018 presidential election. The conservative leader underwent several surgeries during his presidency from 2019 to 2022. He was admitted Friday to a hospital in Santa Cruz, a small city in the northeastern state of Rio Grande do Norte. Now, Senator Flávio Bolsonaro, one of his sons, said he would be transferred to a hospital in the state's capital, Natal. In international diplomacy, the European Union is stressing the importance of dialogue as critical talks loom between the United States and Iran. The EU has reaffirmed that there is no alternative to diplomacy in resolving the ongoing standoff over Iran's nuclear program ahead of key discussions between Tehran and Washington this weekend. In comments made on Friday, EU foreign policy spokesperson emphasized that any development which increases the chances of a diplomatic breakthrough in the upcoming talks between the two countries is a step in the right direction. The EU has long advocated for peaceful negotiations, urging both sides to focus on finding a diplomatic solution to the ongoing nuclear dispute.
Diplomacy, and we take note of the announced talks between the US and Iran. Any development increasing the chances of a diplomatic outcome goes into the right direction. And we, as EU, we would welcome it. We reiterate our commitment to a diplomatic solution, which is the only sustainable way of addressing Iran's nuclear program, as stressed by the High Representative at the UN Security Council recently.
And now off to South Asia, where the Indian Army is turning to technology in the wake of a powerful earthquake that rocked Myanmar. Robotic Mews have been deployed across quake-hit areas to help assess structural damage. Now, these high-tech machines are part of a broader effort to evaluate the scale of destruction caused by the 7.7 magnitude earthquake that struck on March 28th. India was one of the first nations to respond, sending in aid and specialized rescue teams to assist its war-torn neighbor. Now, robotic support is helping navigate treacherous terrain and unstable buildings, giving rescuers crucial insight without putting lives at risk. The use of robotic mules marks a significant step in disaster response, blending humanitarian aid with cutting-edge innovation. And now to the Middle East, where Saudi Arabia has called for pressure to ensure the steady flow of aid into the war-battered Gaza Strip. Now, this comes after Israel imposed a blockade on the entry of crucial humanitarian supplies. The halt to aid was placed in March when Hamas refused to extend the first phase of a January 19th ceasefire deal and release more hostages that it kidnapped on October 7th of 2023.
مرفوض من الجميع، ولذلك أطالب وأنادي المجتمع الدولي بممارسة كافة الضغوط لضمان وصول تلك المساعدات بدون انقطاع وبكميات كافية إلى المدنيين في غزة، ورفض الربط بين ذلك وبين أي اعتبارات أخرى بما فيه موضوع وقف إطلاق النار.
In a fiery address on Friday, Turkish president accused Israel of attempting to destabilize Syria, fueling divisions, as tensions in the region continue to rise. Speaking at a diplomacy forum in the Mediterranean resort town of Antalya, the president claimed Israel is trying to dynamite the revolution that ousted Syrian President Bashar al-Assad. He accused Israel of stoking ethnic and religious tensions to turn minorities in Syria against the government. Now, the president's comments come amid ongoing talks between Turkey and Israel this week, as both countries seek to ease tensions over Syria. Israel has carried out airstrikes and ground incursions to prevent Syrian forces from approaching its border. Turkey, a key backer of Syria's new leader, Ahmed al-Sharaa, has aligned itself with the Islamist group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which led the rebellion that ousted Assad in December. And that's all we can take from beyond the continent. It's back to the continent. And if you are in Nigeria or within the continent, make sure to send us your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing on the screen. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV on all social media platforms. You can always watch News Central live or DSTV channel 422. We're on Go TV channel 23. Find us on Star Times channel 274. We're also on Avo TV, and you can stream us live on YouTube. Hey, thanks for watching. I am Judith, the TV. Good night.